My phone rang while I was scraping Daniel's untouched eggs into the trash. Nora. Chef Adrian Bell sounded careful, the way people sound when they have already discovered the answer and are giving you one chance to make it less ugly. Behind him, knives struck cutting boards in quick, bright rhythms. "Why are you missing from your own table?" I gripped the edge of the sink. "What table?" "The anniversary retreat. Everyone's here, except..." Daniel's voice rose in the background. "The saffron goes in after the wine. That was Nora's whole thing." A woman laughed, soft, throaty, familiar. Adrian moved somewhere quieter. "Your husband said you canceled because of a migraine. Celeste is wearing the blue apron we reserved for you." For a few seconds, the kitchen seemed to tilt around me. The anniversary card beside the coffee maker, Daniel's rinsed mug in the rack, the empty hook where my blue linen apron had hung that morning. "Nora, I'm here." "I counted 10 guests. Your final plan says 9. I looked at the anniversary card. Daniel had signed it, "Love always," though apparently not specifically. "Who is the 10th?" I asked. Adrian didn't answer right away. He didn't need to. At 7 that morning, Daniel had stood in the same kitchen wearing gray slacks and a shirt I had given him for Christmas. He kept checking his watch while I made eggs neither of us wanted. "I'm going to Mom's," he'd said, "just for the weekend." What happened to needing space alone? "She's upset. Evelyn is always upset. It's her cardio." Normally that would have gotten a reluctant smile. Instead, Daniel had pressed his lips together. 2 nights earlier, he had announced that our retreat was off. Not postponed. Off. He said he couldn't spend 3 days pretending we were fine while I was building a federal case over his mother entering our house. She had used an emergency key he'd given her without telling me. She had opened my desk, found the Bellweather folder, and photographed my room assignments, payment schedule, and menu notes because she wanted to prove I could fit 2 more guests if I stopped being rigid. I knew because she accidentally texted one of the photographs to me. The picture showed my folder open on my desk, held flat by Evelyn's square red fingernail. In the top corner was the brass key ring I kept in the ceramic bowl near our front door. She had laid it there as casually as if she were working at her own kitchen table. Daniel's first response had been, "She shouldn't have done that." His second had been, "But you know how she gets when she feels excluded." By bedtime, my locked desk had become a seething disagreement. By morning, my anger was the real invasion. "You're willing to throw away 4 months of planning because I want your mother to return a key she shouldn't have?" I'd asked. "It's not about the key. It never was, once he needed it not to be." Now I stood in our kitchen with Adrian waiting on the phone and understood why Daniel had taken the garment bag instead of his old duffel. "Is my menu there?" I asked. "Your original is in my office. I have the working copies in the kitchen." "And the release?" "Unsigned. That's another reason I called. Daniel said you'd email it." "Don't serve the glasshouse menu." Adrian exhaled. "We've already prepped most of it." "I know, I'm sorry. But don't serve it until I arrive." "You're coming?" I pulled the trash drawer open again, stared at the yellow eggs on top of the coffee grounds, and shut it. Yes. I ended the call and dialed Daniel. He rejected it after 1 ring. I tried again. This time it went straight to voicemail. I called Evelyn. She answered with a burst of conversation behind her. "Nora, this really isn't a good time." "I'm sure it isn't." Silence traveled between us. I could almost see her deciding which version of concern to use. "Daniel told us you needed rest," she said. "We all agreed it would be healthier not to pressure you." "Who is we?" "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Interrogate me when I'm trying to protect your privacy." Someone near her asked whether the caramels went in the refrigerator. Evelyn covered the phone and said, "Ask Celeste, sweetheart. She has Nora's notes." The room inside me went still. Evelyn came back. "I need to go." "You took my retreat." "Oh, for heaven's sake. It was fully paid for." "By me. By the household. There is such a thing as marital property, Nora." She said it with great satisfaction, as though she had spent the drive reading the first paragraph of a legal website. You entered my house, you copied my plans, now you're using them to entertain Daniel's girlfriend. I will not dignify that word. Which word? Girlfriend or entered? Her voice hardened. Celeste has been very supportive during an embarrassing period. If you had come as planned, she wouldn't be here. Daniel told me the trip was canceled because of the way you were behaving. There it was, a small ugly circle with no opening. I had caused my exclusion by reacting to the thing they used to exclude me. Put Daniel on. He doesn't want to fight. He brought Celeste to the anniversary retreat I designed. I warned him the optics were poor. Despite everything, I almost laughed. The optics? But the reservation would have gone to waste. Celeste enjoys cooking and Daniel needs calm right now. I looked through the kitchen doorway at the coat closet. My overnight bag was still on the top shelf, packed except for toiletries. Daniel had watched me put it there after our argument. He had touched my shoulder and said maybe we could try again next year. Is she wearing my apron? I asked. Evelyn lowered her voice. It's an apron, Nora. That did make me laugh, one short sound that hurt my throat. Evelyn mistook it for surrender. There. See? Once you calm down, you'll realize this weekend doesn't have to mean anything. She ended the call before I could tell her it already did. Bellweather Farm was 90 minutes west, beyond a line of low hills where the cell signal dropped and the roads narrowed. I packed the unsigned release, the printed payment receipts, and the photograph Evelyn had sent me. Then I took my overnight bag down from the closet. At the last second, I went to the small bar cabinet in our dining room and opened the bottom drawer. Daniel kept spare keys there in an old cigar box. Mailbox, roof rack, Evelyn's condo, the padlock for a storage unit we no longer used. I found a new silver key between two grocery loyalty cards. A strip of masking tape wrapped around the top bore a single letter in Daniel's handwriting, M. Mom. I set it on the table and photographed it. Then I looked inside the cigar box again. My spare car key was missing. I had left it in the ceramic bowl by the door 3 weeks earlier after mine briefly stopped responding. Daniel claimed he changed the battery and put it away for safekeeping. He must have given it to Evelyn along with the house key because she sometimes complained that climbing into her sport utility vehicle hurt her knee. Or perhaps Celeste had it. Perhaps there were 100 intimate, practical transfers I hadn't noticed because marriage trained you to mistake access for love. I took Daniel's key to Evelyn's condo off the ring and slipped it into my pocket. I left the copied house key on the dining table beneath the anniversary card. The drive should have given me time to decide what I wanted. Instead, it supplied me with things I could not stop remembering. Celeste leaning against our counter at the Christmas party while I showed her how to keep hollandaise from breaking. Celeste complimenting the linen apron my friend Mara had made for me when I finished culinary school classes at night. Daniel calling from the office to say a client dinner had run late, his voice warm with apology and restaurant noise. Evelyn telling me, 2 months ago, that a wife could either be right or be married, then smiling as if she had handed me a family recipe. At a red light outside Millbrook, Daniel finally called. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Driving." "To Bellweather?" "You know then. I know Adrian called you. He had no right to interfere. He needed my signature. I could have handled that." "How?" A pause. Daniel had always treated pauses as evidence of patience, even when they were only time spent arranging the furniture around a lie. "Nora, turn around, please." "Why?" "Because you're angry, and if you walk in angry, you'll make decisions you can't take back. You brought your mistress to our anniversary retreat. Don't call her that. Your mother said the same thing. Celeste and I care about each other. We haven't." He stopped, probably because even he could hear how useless the next words would be. "Things between us have been over for a while." That hit harder than the affair, not because I believed it, but because he said it with the weary authority of someone explaining my own life to me. "When did they end?" I asked. "You know we've been unhappy." "When, Daniel?" This is exactly what I mean. Every conversation becomes a deposition. The light turned green. A truck behind me tapped its horn. I'm asking when my marriage ended. I didn't say that. You just did. He sighed. This weekend was supposed to give everyone room to breathe. Everyone except me. You said you wouldn't go. After you said the retreat was off, I said we couldn't go together. The cabins were paid for. Mom had invited people. What was I supposed to do? Set fire to $5,000? It was $3,800, and I paid the second deposit. From our account? From the account my salary goes into. There you go again. What? Keeping score. His irritation steadied me. Daniel could forgive almost anything except the introduction of arithmetic. Who has my car key? I asked. What? My spare key is gone. I have no idea. Did you give it to your mother? Nora, I'm not doing this while you're driving. Did you give Celeste a key to my car? She needed it once. Her battery died in our garage. Our garage, not the office garage, not a restaurant parking lot. Our garage when? He said my name softly. I pulled into the empty lot of a farm supply store and stopped so hard my overnight bag fell forward from the passenger seat. When was she at our house? It wasn't what you think. That sentence should be printed on your family crest. She stopped by to drop off documents. You were at your book club. I don't belong to a book club. Another pause. On the roadside, a huge fiberglass rooster rotated slowly in the wind. Its red comb had faded pink. I stared at it while Daniel tried to remember which lie included a Thursday night. Cooking class, he said finally. My class is on Tuesdays. Nora, listen to me. I was going to explain everything after the weekend. Why after? Because Mom thought, of course she did. She thought if we could get through one pleasant weekend, we might find a way to handle this like adults. With Celeste in my cabin? She has the room Mara was going to use. Mara canceled 3 weeks ago because her father's restaurant flooded. Who else knows? Knows what? That Celeste is your mistress. I told you not to use that word. I closed my eyes. When Daniel and I first married, he had loved my bluntness. He called it clean air. Somewhere along the way, he began shutting windows. Turn around, he said. I'll come home Sunday and we'll talk. Is she sleeping with you? You don't want to have this conversation on the phone. That means yes. It means I'm trying to show you some respect. Then tell Adrian the truth before I get there. Nora, if you do that, I'll walk in quietly. You're threatening me now. I'm offering you the chance you didn't give me. He ended the call. I sat in the lot until the fiberglass rooster made another complete turn. Then I called Mara. She answered on the 4th ring. Water rushed in the background. If this is about the lavender napkins, I voted no from the beginning, she said. Where are you? At my father's restaurant. The plumber has discovered a spiritual commitment to hourly billing. Why? Did you give Celeste your cabin at Bellweather? The water stopped, or Mara stepped away from it. I'm sorry. I told her enough to remove the humor from her voice. I'm coming, she said. No, stay with your dad. He can insult contractors without supervision. Mara, all right, but listen to me. Adrian has every version of the menu. We saved them through the retreat portal, including the original upload under your name. Daniel can't claim he designed it. I don't care who gets credit for the menu. Yes, you do. I wanted to argue. Instead, I looked at the release folder on the floor, its pages bent where the overnight bag had landed. Mara continued, more gently. You just don't care about that as much as you care that he gave someone your place. Through the windshield, the rooster turned its broad white side to me. I don't know what I care about yet, I said. That's fair. Don't sign anything until you do. Bellweather appeared at dusk, its stone lodge glowing above terraced gardens. The restored glass house stood farther down the hill, every pane holding a piece of the sunset. I had chosen this hour for the welcome dinner because the light made the long table look suspended in amber. Daniel's sedan was parked beside Evelyn's vehicle. Celeste's red convertible sat near the herb garden. My car key lay on its center console, attached to the brass ring from my front door bowl. I photographed it through the glass. Then I followed the sound of voices into the teaching kitchen. 9 people stood around the marble workstations holding wine glasses. At the front, Celeste wore my blue apron over a cream dress. Her fingers rested on the brass ring at its waist. Daniel saw me first. Evelyn saw his face and turned. Adrian stepped out of the pantry carrying my original menu. He placed it flat on the center table between us. "Good," he said. "Now that the person who created this weekend is here, perhaps someone can tell me why she was the only one not invited." For a moment, the only sound was the ventilation hood above the stove. Daniel put down his wine glass. "Adrian, this is a private family matter." "It became a business matter when you asked my staff to change the guest list, transfer a named room, and serve a menu whose release is still sitting in my office." Evelyn drew herself straighter. She wore a rust-colored wrap I had helped her choose for the retreat photographs. "No one transferred anything. A guest was unable to attend, and another guest took her place." Adrian looked at me. "Were you unable to attend?" "I was told the retreat was canceled." A woman near the sinks lowered her glass. Teresa Bell, not related to Adrian, had worked with Daniel years ago and now ran a small furniture showroom with her wife, Jules. I had invited them because Teresa told terrible jokes and Jules knew how to rescue a dinner conversation before Evelyn turned it into a census of everyone's failures. "Daniel said you woke up sick," Teresa said. "He said you insisted we go without you," Jules added. Daniel's jaw tightened. That was the understanding when I left. "You told me you were going to your mother's because the two of you needed to talk." "We did need to talk." "In adjoining cars for 90 miles? A nervous sound escaped from someone at the back. It might have been a laugh, but Evelyn turned toward it so sharply that the room went quiet again. Celeste untied my apron. She did it slowly, looking down at the knot as though her hands belonged to somebody else. "Daniel told me you'd been separated since March," she said. It was September. "We went to Charleston in April," I said. His face shifted. "Just once. Enough." "He told me that trip was for appearances," Celeste said. "It was our anniversary trip." "I thought this was your anniversary trip." "It was the gift. Charleston was for the date." She looked at Daniel. "You said you slept in separate rooms." "We had 2 beds," he said. I stared at him. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "The hotel upgraded us to a suite." "And did you use both beds?" Celeste asked. "This isn't helping." She pulled the apron over her head and laid it on the work table. The brass ring struck the marble with a small, clean click. Evelyn stepped beside her. "You don't owe anyone an explanation, dear." Celeste moved half a step away. It was so slight that Evelyn probably didn't register it. I did. Adrian folded his arms. "I need to know whether we're proceeding. My team has done 3 days of prep, and dinner service begins in 40 minutes. Daniel seized the practical question with visible relief. "Yes, we're proceeding. You can't approve Nora's menu. My wife and I share finances. Money isn't the issue. It usually becomes the issue when the bill arrives." Adrian's expression cooled. He had spent 30 years in kitchens, which meant he could turn silence into a utensil. "The menu is a collaborative program credited to Nora and Bellweather Farm," he said. "She selected personal material from her marriage for the presentation and agreed to introduce each course. I'm not serving it with a substitute wife." Teresa looked down quickly. Jules put a hand over her mouth, but I saw the corners move. Even I almost smiled. Daniel didn't. "No one asked you to call Celeste my wife." "You asked us to put her in the wife's apron. I asked your staff to make her feel included." "You asked my assistant to remove Nora's place card." That landed differently. The empty space at the center workstation became visible to everyone at once. My place card lay face down beside a stack of folded towels. Celeste's name had been written on a strip of white kitchen tape and stuck across it. Evelyn reached for the card. I got there first. My name was embossed in dark blue above a tiny drawing of the glass house. I had approved the design. On the back, in Adrian's handwriting, was a note reminding him that I was allergic to walnuts. I turned it over and set it upright. "Who told your assistant to remove it?" I asked. Adrian looked at Daniel. "My mother thought it would be awkward," Daniel said. Evelyn gave him a wounded stare. She had spent his entire life stepping in front of consequences, and he had just moved aside. "I was trying to avoid distressing Celeste," she said. "You mean reminding her I existed." "We are all extremely aware that you exist, Nora." Teresa coughed into her wine. I ran my thumb along the edge of the place card. "What are my options, Adrian?" "We can proceed with the original program if you sign and participate." "No." Daniel stepped toward me. "Don't decide this just to punish everyone. I'm not cooking my anniversary menu for you and your girlfriend. Then don't participate. Sign the release, go home, and let people enjoy the weekend." He said it as if he were offering a compromise. I looked around at the workstations. Copper bowls gleamed beneath pendant lights. Baskets held the produce I had selected with Adrian. Late peaches, rosemary, fennel, lemons still marked with bits of leaf. At each place sat a printed booklet containing the weekend schedule I had written. Friday, welcome dinner. Saturday, market breakfast and pasta workshop. Sunday, glass house brunch. My labor was everywhere. It had become decor. "What happens if I withdraw the program?" I asked. Adrian answered carefully. "We serve Bellweather's standard group menu and remove the personal presentation. The cabins remain available. The private workshop discount no longer applies, so the booking party would owe the commercial rate." "How much more?" $1,850 plus the additional guest. Daniel laughed without humor. "There it is. What? You came here to blow up the weekend and hand us the bill. You handed yourself the bill when you added Celeste. Oh, please. One extra apron and a plate of food don't cost $2,000. Adrian's eyebrows rose. "I assure you, the apron isn't the expensive part." Jules turned her laugh into a cough. Daniel pointed at my menu. "We already paid the deposit." "I paid it," I said. "Stop saying that." "Why?" "Because you're trying to make our marriage sound like an invoice." "No, Daniel. You did that when you decided payment meant you could replace the person." The room changed. It didn't become friendly to me. It became impossible for him to control. He glanced at the guests, measuring what could still be saved. "We've been having problems for months," he said. "Nora knows that. My mother made a bad decision with the key, and Nora responded by canceling our anniversary. I decided not to waste a non-refundable reservation. Celeste came because a room opened up. That's the whole story." "Are you sleeping with her?" Teresa asked. Daniel looked at her as though a chair had spoken. "Teresa," I said. "No, I'd like to know. He asked me to drive 3 hours round trip to celebrate his marriage. That feels relevant. I didn't ask for a tribunal. You asked me to bring good bourbon. I'm not discussing my private life in a kitchen." Celeste pushed her sleeves down over her wrists. "We've been sleeping together since February." Evelyn closed her eyes. Daniel turned on Celeste. "Why would you say that?" "Because it's true. You don't owe them details. Then stop giving them fake ones." The intimacy in her anger hurt more than I expected. It carried the exhausted rhythm of arguments they had already rehearsed. I picked up my apron and folded it over my arm. "Switch to the standard menu," I told Adrian. "Send the revised invoice to Daniel." Daniel gave a short, disbelieving shake of his head. "You can't remove marital funds from the booking just because you're upset. I'm not asking for the deposit back." That silenced him. $3,800. The amount sat in my chest like a stone. I had saved for 9 months, moving a little from every paycheck into the travel account. Walking away from it did not feel powerful. It felt like cutting fabric close to my skin and hoping I knew where the seam ended. Adrian studied me. You understand the deposit remains applied to the cabins and the prep already completed. I understand. And the special program is withdrawn? Yes. He nodded once. I'll have the kitchen reset. Evelyn's face flushed. Those ingredients will be wasted. No, Adrian said. They'll become other dishes. The guests came for Nora's menu. The guests came for Nora, he replied. I tucked the place card into my folder. Daniel followed me into the hall. The lodge smelled of cedar polish and bread. Through the windows, the glass house glowed at the bottom of the hill. Staff moved inside, lifting linens from the long table. You made your point, he said. Go sign the release. I didn't come to make a point. Then why did you come? I wanted to see whether you could look at me and tell the truth. His mouth tightened. And now? Now I know you can't do both at once. I walked toward the front doors. He caught my elbow, not hard, but with the confidence of someone who had redirected me 1,000 times through crowded rooms. I looked down at his hand. He released me. We can still handle this privately, he said. You brought an audience. You invited them. The cruelty of it seemed to surprise even him. He looked away first. That came out wrong. No, it came out complete. Behind us, Evelyn's voice rose from the teaching kitchen. She was telling someone the weekend would improve once everyone had eaten. Daniel lowered his voice. Don't touch the accounts until I get home. I had not mentioned the accounts. What are you afraid I'll find? Nothing. I'm asking you not to turn a personal crisis into financial warfare. You mean the household account? I mean any account. Your mother's condo fees come out Thursday. His eyes sharpened. Leave Mom out of this. She came into my house, photographed my desk, helped you steal this retreat, and seated your girlfriend in my place. I have tried leaving your mother out of things. She keeps using her key. She depends on us. She depends on me, on us. Name one of her bills you pay. That's not how we divided things. We had never divided them. They had accumulated around me, one reasonable favor at a time. Evelyn's condo fee after her consulting work slowed down, her grocery delivery membership when she injured her knee, the prescription pickup I arranged every month, the Sunday dinners I planned, shopped for, cooked, and packed into containers so she had lunches through Wednesday. Daniel called it what we did for Mom. Her condo is not leverage, he said. No, it's a bill. What does that mean? It means you should learn when it's due. I stepped outside. Celeste's convertible was still parked by the herb garden. My key remained visible on the console. I walked over and tried the passenger door, unlocked. The brass ring was heavier than I remembered. It held my spare car key, a key to our house, and a small black fob for the garage. Daniel had not given her access once. He had made her a set. I heard him behind me. Put those back. I turned with the keys in my palm. You copied my house key. She needed somewhere safe to meet. The words escaped before he could stop them. He closed his eyes. I removed my car key and garage fob. Then I slid the house key off the ring. You can tell her I stole my own property. Nora, don't drive home like this. Like what? He looked at me for a long moment. Like you're done. I left him holding the empty brass ring. Mara was waiting in my driveway when I arrived. She had brought a locksmith named Cal, 2 folding chairs, and a paper bag full of tacos. I know you told me not to come, she said, so I compromised by not going there. Cal changed the front and garage locks while we ate on the porch. Under the porch light, the blue apron looked almost black across my knees. At 10:40, Evelyn's vehicle turned into the driveway. She climbed out wearing the rust-colored wrap, marched to my front door and pushed her copied key into the new lock. It stopped halfway. For the first time all day, I watched Evelyn encounter a boundary she could not explain away. Evelyn rattled the key as if the lock might recognize her persistence. She tried it upside down, then wiped it on the edge of her wrap and tried again. Mara stood beside me on the porch, chewing the last bite of a taco. Maybe it needs emotional support? Evelyn spun around. What are you doing here? providing it. Cal came out of the garage with his tool case. He handed me 3 new keys and an itemized receipt, then glanced toward Evelyn. "Ma'am, that key won't work anymore." I gathered that. He nodded politely and left through the side gate. Evelyn looked from the new deadbolt to me. "You changed the locks on Daniel's house." "I changed the locks on our house because you and Celeste had copies I never approved. I did not give Celeste a key. Daniel did. That has nothing to do with me. It was on the same kind of brass ring." "I buy those rings in packages." Mara swallowed. "That is a fantastic defense." Evelyn ignored her and held out her hand. "Give me a new key." "No. Daniel sent me for his Navy suit and computer. He packed his computer. He needs the charger. I'll bring it to the mediator's office on Monday." "The mediators?" Evelyn stopped. "You made an appointment already?" "No, the office opens Monday." She stared at me as if being prepared were a form of deceit. "This is your marriage," she said. "You can't process it like a product return." "Then why are you here instead of Daniel?" "He is trying to salvage something from the humiliation you caused. He stayed at the retreat. Everyone stayed. Adrian served chicken." The outrage in her voice made Mara turn away to hide a smile. "It was perfectly adequate chicken," Evelyn continued, "but that isn't what people were promised. People were promised an anniversary weekend with me. No one prevented you from staying. I wasn't going to share a cabin with my husband and his mistress." "They weren't sharing a cabin." Mara tilted her head. "That's your line?" Evelyn's composure cracked. "This does not concern you. Nora concerns me. She has always needed an audience for her grievances." "No," Mara said. "She usually needs someone to tell her they count." That landed close enough to truth that I busied myself folding the empty taco bag. Evelyn turned back to me. "Daniel is willing to come home tomorrow. He'll talk if you agree not to make any financial changes before then." "He told me Sunday." "He has reconsidered." "Because I mentioned your condo fees?" Her eyes narrowed. "My housing is not a weapon for you to use against my son. Then your son can pay them. He supports his family." I waited. Evelyn looked toward Mara, perhaps hoping she would be too polite to witness the silence. Mara leaned against the porch rail and settled in. "Daniel's work is cyclical," Evelyn said. "You know that." "So is mine. Somehow the bills aren't." "Your salary is steady because you chose a safe, limited career. I worked in procurement for a regional hotel group. It was not the life I imagined when I took culinary classes at night, but it paid well, and I was good at it. Better than Daniel ever admitted unless one of his clients needed a vendor recommendation." "You didn't come for a charger," I said. She folded her arms against the September chill. "I came to ask what you want. For you to return every copy of my house key. Done. What else? I want Daniel to tell me the truth without you editing it. I can't control what Daniel says. You've spent 15 years trying." Her face changed, not into guilt, into recognition. For 1 second, we were 2 women who knew the same man from opposite sides of the door. Then she lifted her chin. "I kept this family stable. You kept him comfortable. And you benefited from that comfort. I paid for it. You think money is the only thing you contributed, don't you? You cooked, organized, scheduled, arranged. Very impressive. But when he needed softness, he came to me." The precision of it cut. Evelyn saw that and immediately looked tired. She had wanted to win, not necessarily to wound me where she could see it. "I'll get the charger," I said. I locked the door behind me, found it in Daniel's office, and carried it outside in a grocery bag. Evelyn peered past my shoulder before the door closed. "I'm coming back with him tomorrow," she said. "No, Daniel can arrange a time with me. You don't enter this house again unless I invite you. You don't have the right to ban his mother." I just did. She left the old key on the porch railing. It was brass, worn smooth around the teeth. Not the silver copy from Daniel's cigar box. She had more than one. Mara picked it up by the ring. "You want me to make it into a wind chime?" "I want to know how long she's had it." That answer won't help tonight. She tucked the key into the pocket of my folded apron, then carried the apron inside. Daniel did not come home the next day. At noon, he texted that he needed assurance I would behave rationally. At 4, he asked for photographs of his suits. At 7, he wanted to know whether I had canceled his gym membership. I hadn't known I paid for his gym membership until then. Monday morning, I changed my payroll deposit to an individual account and canceled the automatic payments for Evelyn's condo and grocery membership, effective after the current month. I sent both of them the dates, account numbers, and customer service contacts. Daniel called within 6 minutes. "You're cutting off my mother? I'm giving you 30 days to move 2 payments. She's going to panic. Then call her before she sees the email. You enjoy this, don't you?" I looked around my office cubicle at the stack of supplier contracts, the dead succulent someone had left on the file cabinet, the yogurt I had forgotten to refrigerate. "No," I said. "That's what's confusing you." I began making a list of everything I did because it was easier than thinking about why I had done it for so long. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, property tax, house repairs, Evelyn's condo, Sunday groceries, Daniel's quarterly taxes, which I reminded him about but did not actually pay, birthday gifts for his clients, dinner reservations when he needed to impress someone, the Christmas cards he signed at stoplights, the shirts I picked up from the cleaner near my office because his route was impossible, though we worked 7 blocks apart. When I reached 43 items, I closed the document. Our first mediation was held in a converted dentist's office that still had small sinks in 2 rooms. Daniel brought a lawyer named Seth Pruitt, though we had agreed the meeting would be informal. I brought a yellow legal pad and immediately felt underdressed. Seth spoke in a soothing voice about maintaining the status quo. Daniel watched me while Seth described my new bank account and canceled payments as unilateral financial disruptions. "I moved my future paychecks," I said. "I didn't take money from our joint savings. Yet," Daniel said. The mediator, Helen Shaw, raised a hand. Let's keep this factual. Daniel had transferred his upcoming consulting payments to his business account. He called that standard operations. My paycheck was household income. His revenue was working capital. Helen did not agree, but she wanted both of us to accept a temporary freeze on the joint savings until we produced full statements. In exchange, Daniel would use the guest room during scheduled access to the house, and neither he nor Evelyn would enter without written notice. I hated the freeze. The savings included nearly $11,000 from my year-end bonuses. It was my emergency cushion, and I suddenly had locksmith fees, mediation fees, and a mortgage arriving in the same week. Daniel knew exactly what that money meant to me. "Just until everything is documented," Helen said. "And if I refuse?" I asked. Seth folded his hands. "Then we seek formal restrictions and challenge your exclusion of Daniel from the marital residence." Daniel watched my pen. He wasn't omnipotent. He was frightened. That should have made him less dangerous. Instead, it made him willing to burn whatever he could not carry. I signed the temporary agreement. He smiled at Helen as if we had accomplished something together. Afterward, in the parking lot, he caught up with me. "You didn't have to make that difficult." "You brought a lawyer to an informal meeting. Seth is an advisor. Seth billed you for the hour, which comes out of my business. That business is marital income when you want a loan." He looked past me toward my car. "Mom's condo payment was rejected. It wasn't due for 3 weeks. She tried to change the payment source and learned you'd remove the authorization. I told her that. She says you never did. I copied you on the email. She was upset. She doesn't always read everything when she's upset." There it was again. Evelyn's feelings converting facts into optional materials. "Pay it yourself," I said. "My cash flow is tied up." "In what?" "Current projects." "What projects?" He stepped closer. "You don't get to withdraw from this marriage and then audit me." A car door shut across the lot. He moved back. "I'll be at the house Wednesday," he said, 4 to 6. "I need clothes, files, and some materials from your desk." "My desk?" "Bellweather planning records." "No, They relate to my consulting work. They relate to my retreat. Adrian and I have discussed expanding the concept for corporate clients. You knew that. I had known Adrian was considering outside help to market off-season programs. I had not known Daniel was the help. You used my anniversary retreat as a sales pitch. It was a proof of concept. I laughed because the other option was putting my fist through his soothing advisor's car window. That's why you stayed, I said. After I withdrew the menu, you needed Adrian. I stayed because $3,800 was non-refundable. No, you stayed because you thought you could still sell him my work. Cooking weekends are not your invention, Nora. Neither are honest husbands. Somehow you failed to source one. His face went blank. It was a cheap line. I was glad I said it. At home, I opened Daniel's office. I had avoided it since Friday because the room smelled like his cedar cologne and overheated printer ink. A presentation sat in the output tray. The first page read, Vail Hospitality Experiences, Memory-Led Events for High-Value Guests. On page 7 was my glasshouse menu. Daniel had removed the personal notes, but not well. My description of the rosemary lamb still included the phrase, Sunday table, open windows, one chair always too close to the kitchen. In his version, it was called Manufactured Nostalgia. The footer listed Daniel Vail and Celeste Ward as project leads. I photographed every page and put the presentation back exactly as I found it. Then I called Adrian. I can't discuss Daniel's proposal, he said. I'm not asking you to. You need to understand that Bellweather can't become part of a marital dispute. My menu is in his presentation. A long silence. I was afraid of that, he said. You saw the proposal? An earlier version. With my work? With what he represented as a jointly developed concept. And you believed him? I met him through you. That answer hurt because it was fair. Will you confirm the menu files were mine? If your lawyers make a formal request, we'll respond truthfully. Until then, I have a business to protect. He sounded ashamed. He also sounded firm. When I hung up, Mara was standing in the doorway holding the old brass key. I heard enough, she said. I'm running out of people willing to say what they know. I'm willing. You work for Bellweather. I also manage the portal. Every upload has a timestamp, an account name, and a version history. Adrian told me to use lawyers. Adrian is worried Daniel will tell every hotel client he has that Bellweather exposed a guest's affair. He might. He already told one person the kitchen staff humiliated Celeste. Who? Me. He forgot I was there when he rehearsed the story. She placed the key beside Daniel's presentation. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This is Celeste. I need to return some things that belong to you. I also think you should see what Daniel promised me. Mara read my face. Good news? I turned the phone so she could see. A second message appeared. I'm outside. I didn't want to use the key. Mara went to the window. Celeste stood under the porch light holding a banker's box against her cream coat. Her red convertible was parked at the curb, not in the driveway. She had taken the trouble to make that distinction. I opened the door but left the storm door latched. What things? She looked at Mara, then back at me. Your knife roll. 2 serving platters. A framed photograph. Daniel brought them to Bellweather for the presentation. What photograph? You and him in Charleston. I unlatched the door. Celeste carried the box inside and set it on the dining table. The top flaps opened around my belongings. The walnut-handled knives from my culinary classes, 2 white platters from our wedding registry, and a photograph of Daniel and me on a hotel balcony in April. His hand rested at my waist. My hair was blowing across his face, and he was laughing. Celeste had spent the weekend looking at it. He said Adrian wanted personal props, she said. Adrian would never call them props. I know that now. Mara stayed near the kitchen doorway. Celeste glanced at Daniel's presentation on the table. You found it. Did you help write it? I formatted it. The concept and text were already there. Mine. Some of it. Her voice had an edge. I'm not going to pretend every thought Daniel ever had came from you. I didn't ask you to. She rubbed her palms against the sides of her coat. Without my apron and Daniel beside her, she looked less glamorous than she had at Bellweather, not diminished, simply human, tired around the eyes, with a small burn mark near one thumb from the cooking class. Daniel said the two of you developed the program together, she said. He said you were finished with it and he was taking it commercial. Did he tell you I would be at the retreat? Until Thursday, yes. Then he said you backed out because you couldn't stand seeing us happy. Did that sound plausible? No. She looked directly at me. It sounded convenient. There was no apology in the answer, which made it more honest than one would have been. She took out her phone. I exported our messages. There are 2 years' worth, but I removed anything unrelated to you, the retreat, or the consulting proposal. 2 years. We weren't involved for 2 years. You were messaging. We worked together. And then February. Yes. Mara shifted, but I kept my eyes on Celeste. Why give them to me? Because he lied to me. He lied to me first. I understand that. Her mouth tightened. It doesn't make me incapable of objecting when it happens to me. She set the phone on the table and opened a folder. The messages were arranged by date. Some were ordinary, client schedules, restaurant recommendations, comments about hotel lobbies. Then the language softened. Daniel asked whether she had eaten. Celeste sent photographs from airport lounges. He told her she made difficult weeks feel simple. In January, she asked if he was still sleeping with me. Daniel wrote, "We share a house, not a life." In March, he told her our separation had begun and that we were waiting until after Charleston to announce it. In May, he sent a photograph of my blue apron hanging in the kitchen. "Mom thinks this would look good on you at Bellweather," he wrote. Celeste replied, "It has Nora's initials. We can have them removed." My hand went to the apron folded on the nearby chair. "Evelyn knew," I said. Celeste gave a short laugh. "Evelyn interviewed me." "What?" She invited me to lunch in March. She wanted to know whether I was serious about Daniel, whether I understood his work, whether I could handle someone who needed encouragement instead of criticism. Mara murmured something impolite. "I should have left then," Celeste said. Instead, I thought it meant he was really ending the marriage. Evelyn approved you. She approved the version of me that agreed with her. That, at least, was familiar. Celeste scrolled farther. There were messages about the retreat, including photographs Evelyn had taken of my planning folder. Daniel sent them to Celeste with instructions to build his sales deck. In one exchange, Celeste asked if I would expect credit. Daniel answered, "Nora doesn't want a public-facing role. She likes making things, not owning them." My stomach turned. There were also promises. I would move out by October. Daniel would keep the house because I hated the neighborhood. Celeste could convert my office into a dressing room. Evelyn would help her reorganize the kitchen. He had distributed my future with the same confidence he used when ordering wine for the table. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," Celeste said, "but I want it clear that I didn't know he was bringing me into an active marriage." "You knew by Charleston?" "I knew he traveled with you." I believed his explanation because believing it got me what I wanted. The sentence settled between us. "That's the truth," she said. "It isn't a defense. What do you want from me?" "I want a written statement that I returned your property and didn't knowingly take your key." "I won't say you didn't knowingly take it." Her cheeks colored. "Daniel told me you authorized it for emergencies. You used it. Once. When?" "The night he said you were at book club. I was at a supplier dinner. He gave me the wrong excuse, too." Despite myself, I smiled. Celeste almost did. Then she looked down. "Write that I returned the property," I said. "That's true." "And the messages? If you give them to me, I may use them." I assumed you would. She emailed the folder while I wrote a receipt listing the knives, platters, and photograph. She folded it into her purse. At the door, she paused beside my apron. "I never asked for that," she said. "You wore it. I thought refusing would make me look guilty. How did wearing it work out?" "Poorly." After she left, Mara opened the export on my laptop and checked the dates against the Bellweather upload history. "You have enough," she said. "For what?" "To make him admit it. He admitted the affair. I mean the rest, the work, the retreat, the plan to replace you without losing anything you did for him." I looked at the photograph from Charleston. Daniel's laughter had seemed spontaneous when I framed it. Now I remembered asking the hotel employee to take the picture 3 times because Daniel kept checking his phone. "I don't need him to admit it," I said. Mara leaned against the table. "Maybe not, but he needs to stop denying it." The following Wednesday, Daniel arrived at 4 with Seth and an inventory sheet. I let Daniel inside. Seth stayed on the porch after I told him the written agreement allowed Daniel access, not an entourage. Daniel stopped when he saw the banker's box. Celeste was here. It wasn't a question. She returned my things. She stole private business records. She gave me messages she participated in. His gaze moved to the old brass key beside my laptop. "Where did you get that?" "Your mother tried it in the lock." I meant to ask her for it. "You had 15 years. He took his clothes, computer charger, and 3 file boxes. He left the presentation after I told him I had photographed it. At 5:58, he stood in the foyer holding a suit bag. 'Bellweather paused my proposal,' he said. 'Good. I may lose 6 months of work. You copied mine. You contributed ideas. Married people do that. Married people also credit each other. You want credit now? Fine, I'll add your name.' I withdrew the menu. You withdrew the retreat menu. You don't own the concept of food attached to memory. Then write a different one." He looked at me with genuine disbelief, as if I had suggested he grow another pair of hands. "You're enjoying having power," he said. "No, I'm discovering how much of yours was mine." He left without answering. At the next mediation, Evelyn came with a blue folder and requested permission to speak. Helen allowed 10 minutes. Evelyn laid out printed emails in which I described the retreat as a family celebration, asked her opinion about Sunday music, and thanked her for suggesting rosemary lamb. She had highlighted the words, "our weekend," "family table," and everyone's memories. "This was never exclusively Nora's project," she said. "We all contributed. I made calls. Daniel worked on the concept. Nora handled bookings because organization is her strength." "Where are the full email threads?" I asked. "These are the relevant portions." "Where is the email where you suggested rosemary lamb?" She tapped the page. "There." The message began halfway down with my reply. "Rosemary lamb is perfect." It omitted Evelyn's original suggestion that we replace the lamb with catered barbecue because cooking on vacation sounded exhausting. My response had continued. "That's why it's already on the menu." Evelyn had cut the second sentence. Helen removed her glasses. "Mrs. Vale, selective excerpts are not useful here." I shortened them. "You changed their meaning," I said. Evelyn's fingers tightened on the folder. "I am trying to demonstrate that families share ideas. Every recipe Nora knows came from somewhere." "Not that one," Adrian said from the conference room screen. He had joined remotely with Bellweather's attorney. Mara sat beside him, a headset looped around her neck. Adrian looked uncomfortable. It was the first thing that made me trust what came next. He confirmed that I had opened the retreat account, paid both deposits from the household account, created the guest plan, and uploaded every version of the menu through my individual portal login. Mara displayed the version history. My first draft predated Daniel's sales presentation by 3 months. The edits Daniel called his appeared first as comments under my name. Adrian did not discuss the affair. He did not need to. Bellweather considered Mr. Vale's consulting proposal because I believed this program reflected his professional work with Nora, he said. After learning that Nora's material was presented without her authorization, we ended those discussions. Daniel leaned toward the screen. You ended them because of a personal disagreement. We ended them because you misrepresented who developed the product you wanted us to buy. It isn't a product, it's a general concept. Then you won't miss Nora's specific work. Mara muted herself, but I saw her smile. Seth requested a break. Daniel followed me into the hallway near one of the old dental sinks. His face had lost all color. You called my client into our mediation. He was never your client. He would have been. If I stayed home, signed your release, and let Celeste wear my apron. That is not fair. Which part? I made mistakes. I admitted that. But you were dismantling my career because our marriage failed. Our marriage didn't fail before Bellweather. You needed it to sound dead so Celeste would come. He put both hands on the edge of the sink. Mom was afraid you'd leave, he said. I waited. She found the folder because she was looking for financial documents. She thought you were preparing to separate. So you gave her a key. I gave her a key years ago. And when she photographed my desk, she said the retreat could remind everyone what we were supposed to be. With Celeste there? That changed later. Did it? He looked down at the drain. The answer arrived quietly. Evelyn had not helped him salvage the retreat after our argument. She had helped him design my removal before it. She said if I canceled on Celeste, I'd lose her, he said, and if we canceled the weekend, I'd lose Adrian's account. She thought once you cooled off, you would understand the practical side. What did you think? I thought you always fixed things. There it was. Not love, not even malice. Faith in my labor, stripped of gratitude and turned into permission. I'm not fixing this. He looked up. I know. Back inside, the negotiation became ordinary and exhausting. Numbers replaced accusations. The savings freeze was lifted after statements showed neither of us had removed joint funds. Daniel assumed Evelyn's condo fee through the end of the year, after which she would pay it herself or change her living expenses. We agreed to list the house in spring unless one of us could refinance and buy out the other. Daniel kept his business and its debts. I retained my menu, writing, and all Bellweather materials. The separation agreement took another month. Evelyn sent me one email. It contained no apology. She wrote that she hoped I was satisfied with the damage and that she had canceled grocery delivery because the fees were wasteful. I did not answer. Teresa and Jules invited me to dinner. Adrian sent the unused portion of my planning fee, not the deposit, with a note acknowledging that he should have verified authorship before discussing the proposal. Celeste transferred to another office. She and I did not become friends. Once she texted to ask where I bought the walnut-handled knives. I sent her the name of the store. Daniel rented an apartment near Evelyn. He forgot her condo payment in January and paid the late fee himself. By March, the house was quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator cycle off at night. I refinanced, using my share of the release savings and an appraisal that came in lower than Daniel hoped. He signed the final transfer at Helen's office. Before leaving, he set the old cigar box on the table. Keys, he said. Inside were the mailbox key, roof rack key, storage unit padlock key, and the silver copy labeled M. I removed the masking tape and handed that key back to him. I don't need it, he said. Neither do I. He took it. Adrian called in April. Bellweather had restored the glass house for year-round dinners, and he wanted a guest curator for a fall retreat about changing traditions. Paid work, he emphasized. My name on the program. My approval on every menu. I said yes before I could become sensible. We kept the charred peaches and mushroom ravioli. I replaced the rosemary lamb with fennel-roasted chicken because I was tired of cooking Evelyn's favorite meal. For dessert, I stripped the sweet glaze from the lemon tart and added rosemary sugar, black pepper, and enough salt to make the citrus brighter. On opening night, I wore the blue apron Mara had made me. My married initials remained stitched across the front. They belonged to a woman who had done good work, even when she gave too much of it away. I saw no reason to erase her. After the last plate left the kitchen, I stepped into the restored glass house. The long table glowed beneath hanging lights, surrounded by dark herb beds and open country. I took off the apron and hung it on the wooden peg beside the door. The brass ring at its waist tapped once against the frame. This time, when I walked outside, nothing in my life was waiting for someone else to give me permission to enter.